Discover how an incredible mechanic transformed a paralyzed CEO's life in 30 amazing minutes. Rain danced on the rooftop of Jack's garage, each droplet echoing the steady pulse of tension in his chest. He wiped grease from his hands, a habit born of routine, but today felt different. His heart sank beneath the weight of bills piled high at home, while dreams of expansion once vibrant now faded under the strain of reality. The small-town business he loved was barely scraping by. As he took a deep breath, preparing for another mundane afternoon, a sleek black car rolled into his world, stark against the gray skies. It was a sharp difference, and he felt unease coil in his gut. Behind the wheel sat Lisa, a well-dressed CEO whose polished exterior failed to conceal the despair in her eyes. The accident, a shattered moment in time, had robbed her of movement and identity, leaving only a vestige of the powerful figure she once was. Jack approached, clenching his fists, a myriad of emotions swirling within him, compassion dancing with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of judgment. How would the townsfolk react to him helping someone perceived as above him? Yet, as he drew closer, he felt her vulnerability mirrored his own struggles, how his dreams, once bright, had dimmed in the face of relentless adversity. Car trouble? He asked, trying to bridge the chasm between their vastly different lives. Her voice trembled like the raindrops splattering against the pavement. Just stop, please. It surprised him how the richness of her frustration pierced straight through his skin. For every turn of her wrenching emotions pushing back memories of board meetings and luxury, Jack sensed his own aspirations, battered but still flickering. As he slipped into the routine of the repair, the first crack in Lisa's armor appeared. She shared snippets of her life, each word laden with the weight of expectations gone awry. Jack offered bits of himself too, revealing what it meant to keep on pushing, day by day, but with every minute spent in this unexpected alliance, an undercurrent of tension began to unravel. Jack's friends questioned his loyalty, casting sideways glances at the fancy company he kept. Comments swirled like the rain, seeping into him. Would they think he betrayed his roots? Lisa, in the stark contrast of her controlled world, found herself caught in the whispers of her former colleagues, who regarded her as a failure for needing help. Their stares felt like daggers. Pressure mounted within both of them as they navigated the suffocating scrutiny, the budding connection between them shifting under the weight of societal expectations. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Time passed, but the air thickened. Bartenders poured drinks in the nearby pub, and Jack's mind raced. Could he stand strong against the naysayers? The world outside laughed at their connection, but here in the garage, Lisa's anguish painted a portrait of desperation that reflected his own. A storm raged within him, doubt gnawed at his determination. Could he truly help her reclaim what she lost, while dragging his own ambitions from the depths? Would he risk his standing in the community for someone trapped in a gilded cage? As she peered at him, searching for solace, Jack's resolve wavered. The storm outside mirrored the chaos of their growing bond, a dangerous path entangled with fragility and desperation. They were two souls struggling to breathe in a world that threatened to suffocate them both. Would his loyalty be enough to withstand the raging tempest of doubt looming on the horizon? The answer lingered just beyond reach, heavy and unresolved, as the rain drummed louder, warning of the tumult ahead. Jack felt the weight of uncertainty settle deeper in his bones as the minutes slipped away in the garage. The steady rhythm of raindrops on the roof was a distant backdrop to the storm raging in his heart. His hands, still soiled with grease, trembled slightly as he tightened a bolt. He needed not only to fix Lisa's car but desperately wanted to mend something within himself. This unexpected bond with the woman before him awakened dormant dreams, buried under layers of self-doubt and societal expectations. The silence that stretched between them was filled with unspoken words, as if every breath hinted at futures neither of them dared to envision. Jack glanced at Lisa, her gaze lost somewhere far beyond the confines of his garage. He saw in her eyes a flicker of fierce determination hidden beneath layers of sorrow. A thought nudged at his consciousness: her fight to reclaim her life was no different than his fight to keep his business alive. Why did you come here? He finally asked, wanting to break through the barrier that kept them apart. Her words came out in a whisper. I needed to find something, but I don't even know what that is anymore. The rawness in her voice resonated with Jack, igniting a flicker of hope within him. Could he help her discover that elusive something she sought? Maybe, he said, contemplating his own vulnerability, we can help each other. A spark of courage surged through him, daring him to face not only his fears but also the cold judgment of the world. As he began explaining the intricacies of her car's repair, he started to feel a sense of purpose. In teaching her about mechanics, the things he loved, Jack uncovered parts of himself he thought long lost. Each word he shared was infused with passion, reigniting a fire in his spirit that the grind of the last few months had all but snuffed out. Lisa listened, occasionally nodding, her mind slowly shifting from the burden of her reality to the tangible details of a world she had once controlled. For Jack, it was liberating to see her engaging, a reminder that perhaps both of them still held the reins to their own destinies, if only they dared to grasp them. But then the shadows whispered again. He recalled the bar's clinking glasses, the judgmental eyes of his friends back home. The world outside resented their forging bond. With each moment he spent showing Lisa how to fix her car, he felt the heavy weight of potential backlash. Would it be enough to just break away and help her, even if it meant putting his own reputation on the line? Jack caught a glimpse of himself in the reflection of the garage window, a man struggling to reconcile who he was with who he wanted to be. In his own small-town world, he had been labeled a mechanic, and he worried that his ventures into Lisa's realm of aspiration might blur that identity forever. Are you sure about this? He asked, his voice wavering. Yes, she replied, her tone firm and unwavering, as if she sensed his uncertainty. But are you, Jack? Her question pierced through his layers of doubt, forcing him to confront not just his fears but also what it meant to reach for something greater than both of them. In that moment, an epiphany struck. Maybe his ability to help Lisa wasn't about erasing their differences but embracing them, fostering growth in uncharted territories for both of them. They were two broken yet resilient beings seeking to uplift each other in a world that seemed determined to tear them down. The storm outside began to ease, but the tempest within Jack raged on, the seeds of potential growth planted yet still raw. What if Lisa needed him to help her reclaim her power, while he needed her to remember his dreams? The answer to that possibility lay ahead, not in the mundane tasks of the day but in the courage to find their own truths. As they stood together, a fragile understanding blossoming in the space between them, Jack felt an authentic sense of determination solidify. But just as the path before him started to shimmer with promise, a knock sounded against the garage door, a sudden intrusion that loomed ominously against their nascent bond. The moment of confrontation had arrived. Jack's heart raced as the knock echoed through the garage, breaking the fragile intimacy he had begun to form with Lisa. It was a stark reminder of the outside world that threatened to pull them apart, a world that judged and dismissed those who dared to step outside their designated roles. Who could that be? Lisa broke the tension, her brows knit in concern. Jack shrugged, uncertainty tightening his throat. No one ventured out here without reason. It could easily be someone seeking to disrupt the fragile connection they had forged. Let us not answer, he suggested, trying to sound indifferent, even as a nagging instinct screamed for him to remain hidden. Jack, if it's someone looking for work or help, the knock repeated, more insistent and urgent. Jack's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about Lisa too. If it's trouble, it'll find us eventually. But Lisa stepped toward the door, her determination unmistakable. We can't hide, Jack. That's not how we reclaim our power. Her words ignited a burning recognition within him. Hiding wouldn't help either of them. They couldn't move forward by evading challenges. What they needed was resilience and courage, qualities they were both beginning to uncover. Okay, let us see, he relented, his breath catching as he approached the door beside her. With a deep breath, he pulled it open, revealing a figure from his past, his old high school friend, Mike. He stood there, drenched from the rain, eyes wide with surprise. A flash of judgment flickered across his face, leaving Jack exposed, vulnerable. What's this? Mike smirked, glancing between Jack and Lisa. Can't believe you're in here, fixing a car. Didn't he take you for the type? The barb cut deeper than Jack expected. The words felt like a betrayal, a reminder of the judgmental voices he had grown up with. Whispers of inadequacy flooded his mind. But Lisa spoke up, her voice steady. "Actually, I'm learning. Jack's helping me." Jack shot her a warning look, but she stood her ground. "Helping?" Mike laughed, the sound sharp as glass. Didn't he know mechanics could moonlight as therapists too? The laughter twisted something in Jack's chest. "It's about finding purpose," he said, his voice rising instinctively. "Something you won't understand." Mike's expression shifted momentarily, confusion mingling with sneering disbelief. "Purpose? In this dump of a garage?" Jack felt a surge of anger but repressed it, realizing how much of himself he was willing to lay bare at this moment. "This dump is a place where I can create. Where I can teach." "What do you think you're proving, Jack?" Mike mocked. "That you can fix a car, or that you're something more than just a mechanic?" Jack inhaled deeply, staring into the eyes of someone who had once been a friend but had now become a reminder of unfulfilled aspirations. The truth stung. A part of him feared it was all he was capable of, but then he turned to Lisa. In her soft gaze, he found the strength to explore a different narrative, one that revealed the metamorphosis he was undergoing. "I'm proving that I can embrace my potential," he said, focusing on his conviction, on the dreams that had been dormant as he faced Mike's condescension. "Potential? Come on, Jack." "Stop it," Lisa interjected, her voice rising above the tension. "He has more than you've ever given him credit for. You're the one stuck, not him." Jack's heart raced as he felt the support resonate within him. He shifted his focus back to Mike. "You think you know me? I'm just starting to know myself, and it feels good." That sentiment echoed in the space where defeat once lingered. The silence lay heavy between them, while Mike narrowed his eyes, perhaps trying to gauge whether Jack meant his words or was simply caught up in a fleeting moment of defiance. The truth had taken root, and the flicker of uncertainty was now shrouded in determination, but before Mike could respond, the loud rev of an engine broke the tension outside, both startling and intriguing him. "What's that?" Jack asked, curiosity mingling with a fear that something else was about to be thrust into this equalizing moment. Digging deep within himself, he anticipated the answer lying ahead was more than mechanical. It was about facing truths unseen and emerging, yet again, into the light of who he could become. The roar of the engine was like a rallying cry, snapping Jack from the tension that had been coiling around him like a snake. It ignited a flicker of curiosity as if daring him to step further onto the path he had long avoided, one of exploration and confrontation. "What do you think it is?" Lisa leaned in, her eyes alive with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Jack felt her energy course through the air, dulling the sting from Mike's earlier barbs and replacing it with a cautious determination. "I don't know," he admitted, half shrugging as he shot a wary glance toward Mike. "But it's not just idle chatter. Someone's out there, revving that engine for a reason." Mike's smirk faltered slightly as the sounds of motors and muffled voices drifted closer. The unease in his posture told Jack that even he felt the weight of unrest. The garage suddenly felt like a threshold, one that separated their mundane lives from a world of possibility. Without realizing it, Jack took a step outside, mellowing in the damp, cool air. There was something electrifying about being on the cusp of a new experience, even with the specter of Mike's skepticism looming behind him. Breathing deep, he propelled himself further into the unknown. "What are you doing?" Mike's incredulous tone was cutting. "Don't tell me you're looking to impress anyone out there. It's not like anyone cares about what you're doing." Jack halted, spinning to face Mike. "It's not about impressing anyone. It's about being present in my own life." The truth of his response bore down on him, a realization building at the core of his being. Regret, fear, and expectations had long held him captive, but now, with Lisa beside him and the engine's rumble in the air, he felt cocooned within a dawning awakening. As he approached the garage's entrance, the figure of a biker became visible. Dressed in leather with a helmet swung under his arm, he radiated confidence and autonomy. A motorcycle is not just an object, it symbolizes freedom and raw potential, a stark contrast to the weight of expectations Jack carried. "Need a hand?" the biker called out, his tone robust and full of charisma. There was something magnetic about him that ignited a yearning within Jack to engage, to step away from the cocoon of caution, but then doubt flashed through his thoughts. What if this man saw through the veil of Jack's carefully constructed self-image? What if he was just another Mike, ready to stab at the heart of his insecurities? Flashes of past failures smothered his resolve. Lisa sidled up beside him, her subtle encouragement unwavering. What do you have to lose, Jack? The only judgment here is the one you place on yourself. Jack could sense an opportunity rising above the looming shadows. Actually, he called out to the biker, I could use some advice on a project. Surprise darted across the stranger's face, quickly replaced by a bright grin. What do you have in mind? Let us see what you've got. In that moment, Jack felt a shift, like the tension evaporating into the ether. This wasn't merely about fixing a car, it was about changing the narrative, opening doors he had ignored. The connection with the biker was a chance to reclaim parts of himself he thought were lost. With each step towards the noise, Jack made a choice to channel his uncertainty into curiosity, a decision he would never have had the courage to make days before. He understood he was on the precipice of transformation, not just in his work, but in his life. As laughter erupted from Lisa, contrasting with Mike's disdainful silence, Jack caught the biker's eyes. Encouragement and challenge intertwined within their gaze. Suddenly, the fresh possibility crashed back into his mind. This was a test. A test of growth, of willingness to advance into discomfort. It was an invitation to discover not just who he was as a mechanic, but who he could become. What's next? Jack asked, the sensation of exploration fulfilling his chest, even as adventure loomed overhead. But before the biker could respond, a figure emerged in the distance, a woman with urgency painted across her face. She pointed toward Lisa and Jack, shouting something Jack couldn't grasp yet. Instinct kicked in, adrenaline fueling his pulse. What developments lay ahead, spiraling into further challenges he would need to confront? In that very moment, Jack felt not just the weight of expectation lift, but also the thrilling uncertainty that would define the next chapter of his journey. The woman rushed towards them, her footsteps hurried against the gravel, a stark contrast to the previous excitement that hung in the air. Jack's heart quickened, a mixture of intrigue and concern swirling within him. He diverted his gaze from the biker, feeling a renewed weight of reality settle over him. Jack! Lisa! She called, her voice strained. It's urgent. We need your help. Jack exchanged a glance with Lisa, who shifted her weight slightly but remained poised, her eyes scanning the woman for context. This wasn't just an ordinary moment, it felt like a critical juncture, one that could define his path in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. What's going on? Jack managed to ask, taking a half step forward, the instinct to help rising within him. It's my father, the woman said breathlessly, her expression caught between desperation and determination. He is in a bind and I know he values skilled mechanics. We need someone who can think on their feet. Can you come? Please? Jack felt the urgency pulse through her words as if they were electric. For a split second, his mind swirled with hesitation. Was he really prepared for such a challenge? He had always stayed within the confines of his predictable tasks, keeping his efforts focused and clear-cut. Yet here he was, at an intersection where someone was reaching out for him to embrace the unknown, to offer assurance when chaos had taken hold. Let us go, Lisa urged softly, stepping toward him, her belief in him radiating like a beacon. Each step toward the woman felt monumental. It wasn't just an obligation to help, it was an opportunity to define himself by action and resolve. Jack turned his focus inward, recognizing that this moment could push him beyond mere mechanics into a deeper realm of personal responsibility and growth. Lead the way, Jack nodded with quiet conviction. The thrill of potential outweighed the fear. As they sped toward the woman's location, a swirl of thoughts occupied his mind. What could he possibly offer? Was he really capable of addressing a crisis beyond the grease and bolts that filled his daily routine? Yet even in these doubts, kernels of confidence began to sprout. It was time to strategically channel his skills and instincts into something bigger than himself. Arriving at the site, Jack felt an immediate change in the atmosphere. A sleek, luxury vehicle stood parked awkwardly, its hood raised like an open invitation into the unknown. Adrenaline surged. He could sense the tension in the air: anticipation, fear, desperation. The woman's father was not just any client, he was a CEO gripped by a situation that challenged his authority and poise. Jack was now standing at the precipice of a moment that could impact more than just machines. Gathering his thoughts, Jack stepped forward, the noise around him dissolving as clarity filled his mind. "What's the issue?" he asked, turning to the woman. "Electrical failure," she explained, the urgency returning to her tone. "He was in the middle of an important meeting when it happened. He needs to leave now." As Jack examined the vehicle, his analytical mind clicked into gear. Each detail revealed something hidden. This was about more than just fixing wires or diagnosing problems. This was an emotional rescue mission. He could feel the weight of expectations spiraling up, not only his own but those of the woman and her father, too. People depended on him, which stoked the flames of determination within him. He was no longer casting his skills in the shadows, he was ready to shine. Each second stretched as Jack began assessing the car, methodically diagnosing the issue. The complexity of the problem paralleled his personal journey. Was he equipped to navigate through chaos, to overcome his own limiting beliefs? With a sudden surge of insight, he spotted the malfunction, a blown fuse, small yet essential. In that moment, it struck him, he didn't just fix machines, he could restore hope. "Let us get this sorted out," he said, pushing through self-doubt as he moved with newfound purpose. But before he could implement his plan, a muffled shout echoed from within the vehicle's interior. Jack paused. An unexpected twist lay ahead, and its implications would test everything he believed about his emerging self. What awaited in the depths of that luxury car? Would he truly rise to this unexpected challenge? Jack could only wonder as the stakes escalated, tightening the grip of anticipation around him. The shout echoed again, cutting through the tension like a blade. Jack's heart raced as he glanced toward the woman, who now wore a mask of panic. Her father remained trapped inside the car, a powerful figure reduced to a voice of vulnerability. "Dad! Can you hear me?" she called, urgency cracking her tone. Jack felt the collective breath of the group behind him. Lisa, the bystanders held tightly in the throes of unease, mirroring his own feelings as her father's voice faltered and faded. With each heartbeat, Jack's instinct surged through the haze of uncertainty. There was more than a mechanical problem at hand, a man's dignity was hanging precariously, and Jack was thrust into this chaotic reality, where every decision mattered. A prickle of nausea hit him, the realization that failure wasn't an option burned sharply in his chest. He stepped toward the luxury vehicle, kneeling beside the open hood. The warm metal radiated heat, grounding him as he focused. Could he really pull this off? It would require not just technical skill but an emotional resilience he had yet to fully cultivate. "Stay calm!" Jack shouted, raising his voice above the noise of the gathering crowd. "I'll get you out. Just give me a moment." He could almost feel the eyes of everyone on him, like a spotlight demanding performance, amplifying the pressure. Whatever doubts he had about his worth were secondary to what this moment demanded of him. It was time to act. Jack's mind shifted gears, unfolding in slow motion as he recalled every lesson learned in the garage, every challenge he'd faced when troubleshooting the nation's most finicky vehicles. He had to reorganize his thoughts, stripping away the apprehension that clouded his reasoning. He detrained for this in a different way, fostering skills that were now pushing to surface. It was not just about fixing, it was about understanding. "Lisa, I need a flashlight," he said, shaking himself from hesitation. Just as the words left his lips, she was at his side, providing the tool he needed to reveal the hidden chaos within the vehicle. Jack shone the light inside, revealing a maze of wires and a tangle that seemed daunting yet full of potential solutions. There it was again, the muffled plea from within the car. Jack steadied his breath, allowing the fear to morph into determination. This was his moment to translate the mechanical world into human need. As he navigated the wires, Jack felt something new invigorating him, a deep-seated conviction that he could wrap his head around complexities far beyond mechanical puzzles. This was a deeper problem, one that required empathetic engagement with a real person behind the walls of polished chrome. He reassessed the blown fuse. There was a chance it facilitated something larger. What if a temporary fix meant he could buy them more time? Jack quickly grabbed some tools, improvising as he worked through his options. "Keep talking to him," Jack instructed the woman, his hands steady and mechanistic as he replaced the blown fuse with something he fashioned on the fly. Let him know he is not alone. With hands moving, calculations spiraled in his head, each part of him pushing against the confines he had set for himself in his mind. As he worked, he made a silent promise this was about more than machinery, it was about bringing hope into the human experience. Moments trickled by, each one weighted with uncertainty, yet Jack felt a strange sense of clarity. Nearly there, he thought, pushing aside the anxiety that threatened to ensnare him again. Then, as tension reached its pulse, a small click echoed when the circuit reconnected. Jack could barely contain his breath. "Try it now!" he shouted, the pit of his stomach tightening with the potential for success or failure wrapped within the precipice of that moment. Would the simple act of connecting those wires restore not just the car, but also the confidence of a man feeling trapped? The answer hovered on the edge of a precipice, and Jack could feel something ever deeper beyond the vehicleless body a ride towards self-discovery lay. Waiting. But no sooner had he spoken than another unexpected sound emerged, a low rumble that hinted at even greater complexities hidden within. What could it possibly mean? Jack braced himself. This challenge was escalating, and he was now on the threshold of uncovering what it meant to be more than a mechanic but a beacon of transformation in a moment of crisis. The rumble intensified, vibrating through the air and reverberating in Jack's chest. It felt as if the entire situation was suddenly alive, a wild beast threatening to lash out. Panic wrestled at the edges of his focus, but Jack pushed it back, drawing on the determination that had taken root within him. His palms slick with sweat, he kept working, urgency driving his hands. "Just a few more moments, let us make this count," he murmured under his breath, grounding himself in the belief that he could pull together the strands of this moment into something productive. The fear he had tolerated now morphed into a ferocity of spirit, urging him to act decisively. "Is he okay?" The woman's voice broke through the chaos, tinged with desperation. Each word twisted in Jack's gut, igniting a sense of responsibility that he could never have anticipated. It was more than just fixing a vehicle, it was about restoring dignity, about being the bridge to her father's confidence and safety. "Let us see if we can get some power back to him," Jack replied, shaking his head to clear away the flickering worry. His hands moved with renewed resolve, fingers dancing over the components. The sunlight glared down, casting crystalline rays that laid bare the car's vulnerabilities. He began to grasp the implication of every connection, feeling strategy form like an intricate web in his mind. With a steady breath, he moved past the immediate fixes. He could enhance this moment, spark personal revival not just within the machine, but for the woman as father as well. Rummaging deeper into the components, Jack found a disconnected wire. His heart surged as the connection shook his core. It was a long shot, but perhaps it would restore functionality. "I need you to stay strong for him," Jack called again, meeting the woman's anxious gaze. "Tell him I'm working. You've got to keep him alert. Just keep talking." He quickly secured the wire, locking it into place with a mechanical grip. It was a simple move, yet it felt monumental. The woman nodded, energy swirling between them as if she could sense what was unfolding. Each second that passed thickened the atmosphere with anticipation, and Jack felt a shift occur within him. Responsibilities seemed to coalesce into something larger than himself. Here, life and mechanics entwined in a profound dance of hope and action. "All right, let us see what happens now," Jack breathed deeply. In his gut, he felt a blend of fear and excitement. He reached back toward the ignition. As his finger made contact with the switch, the car's engine coughed to life, sputtering like a newly revived heart before steadying into a rhythmic thrum. It was music to Jack's ears, a resounding affirmation underscoring his efforts. Hope surged through him as the rumble transformed into a purring engine, resonating with new life. "Dad! Did you hear that?" the woman cried, her voice vibrant with disbelief. Jack met her gaze, her eyes wide with joy, capturing an emotional transformation mirrored in his heart. But just as the atmosphere shifted, a more profound internal question loomed larger in Jack's mind. Could a single act amplify someone's existence, and did it extend far beyond this moment? What was it about this experience that felt like a door swinging open, unveiling parts of himself he had yet to understand? Moments later, as the car's doors swung wide and the woman reacted with elation, Jack realized they weren't out of the storm yet. The ambient noise faded to whispers as people began to cheer, their hopes intertwined in a shared relief. Yet Jack felt an unease creep in as he absorbed the collective joy the situation had transformed, but he was confronted with a new challenge: acceptance of his role in this unfolding drama. As people gathered, celebrating the seemingly miraculous turn, Jack noticed the woman's father still frail against the dashboard, a shadow of his former self. The thrill of success warred with the realization that deeper scars might linger unhealed. His heart sank slightly as thought invaded quietly: what more could he do beyond saving this man from just physical confinement? Suddenly, a voice called from behind, pulling Jack from contemplation. "Hey, you!" That was incredible. It was Lisa, her demeanor electric with excitement. But beyond the words, he could sense another unspoken challenge surfacing, beckoning from within him, a challenge that hinted not only at mechanical repair but rather at a personal awakening looming just out of reach. Jack turned, feeling the weight of both gratitude and uncertainty swirling around him. What lay beyond this instant triumph? The thrill was heady and intoxicating, filled with promises of potential new pathways, yet Jack's next choice would demand everything he had learned so far, and more. The time had come to face the questions he had avoided, shaping not just a person transformed, but a mechanic who could reshape his own identity through the lives he touched. He drew a deep breath, prepared for the journey ahead, a journey where the real mechanics of life would reshape him yet again. What awaited him? Confrontations, revelations. Only time would unveil the next turn in this intricate path he now inhabited. Jack stood amidst the swirling emotions that enveloped him like a thick fog. The cheers faded into the background, and the joy of the woman and her father became a distant echo against the clamor of his racing thoughts. What had started as a simple mechanical failure had morphed into a moment of significance he couldn't ignore. Everything began to unfurl inside him, revealing layers of self he had long kept buried under grease-stained overalls and stubborn resolve. What now, he wondered, the question nudging his subconscious. Each heartbeat thudded loudly, amplifying the inner dialogue that surged forward, the sense that he was on the threshold of something more. Lisa moved closer, her enthusiasm radiating outward like heat from the engine he had just revived. "You did a great job," she said, her voice infused with admiration. "I knew you could do it." Yet, even as he nodded in gratitude, Jack couldn't shake the gnawing sensation creeping into the corners of his mind. Why did it feel like more than just a job well done? What had he awakened within himself? Suddenly looking at Lisa, he realized the unspoken challenge her gaze implied. What about after this moment of triumph? What destiny awaited him beyond the mechanical? "I appreciate it," Jack replied, forcing a smile, but the facade barely masked the turbulence brewing inside him. He felt no sense of belonging here, yet the fervor surrounding him made the ground feel shaky. This was all foreign territory, a stage lit with promise and uncertainty. Everyone was just wondering what's next for you. Lisa continued, prodding gently, yet the question hit harder than an impact wrench. "You've got this energy, this passion. Could you do more than what you're doing now?" Her words were laced with the very implications that scared him. What if he could? What if he pursued something higher, something beyond just fixing broken cars? Was it too late for him to rise above the grease-stained reputation he wore like armor? Jack shifted uneasily, his heart racing again. "I haven't thought about it," he admitted, though inside, seeds of doubt germinated into questions of capability and self-worth. The idea of aspiration felt like a strange blend of exhilaration and fear. The father, who had silently observed the interchange from his seat, finally spoke, his voice a tremor of gratitude and awe. "Thank you for what you did," he said, his dim eyes sparkling with renewed life, but it was also an invitation. Jack felt the weight of that gratitude reverberate through him, igniting a hunger for significance. It was just a quick fix," he stammered, even as the truth settled uncomfortably. His action was a vital spark to something far larger than mere mechanics. "Not at all," the woman interjected, gathering strength in each word. "It was you who gave him hope today. You gave us both hope." Her gaze pierced through his hesitation, and he began to confront his retreating shadows. Was it enough to merely fix machines? The spark of possibility ignited a flame of contemplation within him, revealing a longing he had muted for too long. It wasn't simply about repairing, it was about restoring faith, breathing life back into both machines and souls. As Jack looked into the woman's eyes, he found himself wrestling with a burgeoning ambition gnawing at the edges of his consciousness. He was still the same mechanic, yes, but what if he could become more than that? What if he could implement change, not just in one fleeting moment but in tangible, long-lasting ways? Decisions collided within him, each one more intense than the last. Who had he been, and who could he become? Jack took a step back from the fervor around him, grappling with the weight of his newfound realization. The true power of connection lay in their vulnerability and his willingness to embrace every harsh truth of his journey so far. Maybe this is where it begins, he murmured softly, realizing that surrendering to this new path meant facing his fears and confronting the barriers he had long built around himself. Jack? Lisa's voice pulled him back into focus, her face a combination of curiosity and support. What are you thinking? Before he could articulate the whirlwind of thoughts brewing inside, a familiar voice echoed through the crowd. Hey! Jack! You free for a moment? It was his old mentor, Ralph, a figure from his past that had both inspired and intimidated him. Jack's heart raced anew, a storm in his chest. This was the practical world he had tried to navigate without external influence for so long, yet now it touted a new meeting where possibility met unresolved history. What did Ralph want, and how would Jack respond? The ambiguous pull of an unresolved past colliding with a nascent vision of his future beckoned him closer, demanding attention. The moment had arrived to grapple with the choices that would define him. Would he cling to the comfort of his past or release himself into the uncertainty that lay ahead? The voice cut through the haze of Jack's uncertain thoughts, grounding him in the present. Ralph, with his broad shoulders and commanding presence, strode through the throng like a general surveying a battlefield. Jack's stomach twisted as memories jolted him, lessons learned hard in triumphs not quite claimed. Ralph had been a figure of authority, the one who taught him what it meant to take pride in one's craft, yet he also had become a reminder of missed paths and ambitions left untapped. Yeah, of course, Jack managed, the air around him thickening with anticipation. He could feel the weight of those unspoken expectations, the fantasies of advancement that lingered in the back of his mind but were often brushed aside, overshadowed by the self-imposed narrative of his current role. Can we talk over there? Ralph gestured toward a quieter corner just beyond the reach of the crowd's ebullience, where the lights dimmed and the noise faded. Jack nodded, the decision made in silence as he followed, every step echoing the ambivalence in his heart. Once they stood apart, Ralph folded his arms and scrutinized Jack's face, his expression one of a seasoned observer. You looked good out there, he began, his voice steady but tinged with an affectionate familiarity. You've always had the knack for problem-solving, but today, it seemed like you were more than just a mechanic. Jack felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He was caught between pride and disbelief. It was just a quick fix. Nothing hugely significant, he deflected, but the moment of truth poured from his mentor's gaze. Don't shortchange yourself. What you did today had real impact, and you know it, Ralph challenged, leaning in slightly. People are starting to see you in a different light. Have you thought about leaning into this? Maybe expanding your horizons? A rush of thoughts crashed in like waves. Internally, Jack wrestled with Ralph's observation. What does that even mean for me? He murmured, the question heavy with the cacophony of his insecurities. Could he truly step away from the familiar and embrace something more unknown? Why not consider teaching? Ralph continued, his eyes shining with an energy that made Jack feel strangely buoyed. You're naturally good at explaining things. There's a whole array of skills you possess that could transform others' lives. What is stopping you? The possibility struck Jack like a lightning bolt. Teaching, sharing wisdom drawn from rich experience had been a long-buried dream. But a specter of fear loomed large, whispering doubts that clawed at his psyche. I'm just a mechanic. What do I have to offer? More than just a mechanic, Ralph replied firmly, his voice carrying the authority of both challenge and support. You've lived. You've faced challenges and risen above them. Your experience alone can ignite a spark in someone else. Don't underestimate what you bring to the table. A mixture of hope and trepidation curdled in Jack's stomach. Was he really supposed to believe that? The murmurs of impostor replayed cruelly in his mind. Perhaps, under that outer shell, there was a truth to glean. What if I fail? He asked, the question lingering in the air like an uninvited guest. Failure is part of the journey. It's how we grow. If you don't try, you'll never know what's possible, Ralph responded, his tone encouraging yet serious. The biggest risk lies in not taking any risk at all. Time stood still, the question reverberating in Jack's mind like the sound of a ringing bell. His heart raced, recognizing the crossroads he stood upon. What if this was not merely an anxiety-laden burden but instead the precipice of a transformative moment? Ralph extended his hand, shaking Jack from the spiral of his thoughts. Explore it, Jack. Don't let fear anchor you to a past that doesn't define who you are now. With those words, something shifted within Jack like a tiny flame igniting in the expanse of his consciousness, igniting not just dreams but also a longing to wield his skills beyond grease and metal. The thought began to settle within him, mingling. Something beautiful and terrifying. Maybe teaching could be worth considering, Jack finally replied, his voice measured with a newfound resolve. Let us start there. Ralph's smile ignited a spark of camaraderie that reminded Jack he wasn't alone on this path. As they discussed possibilities and potential next steps, an urgency began to build within Jack, a compelling need to define his journey forward. He had glimpsed an opportunity for personal growth and fulfillment, and despite the uncertainties swirling around him, he felt more committed than ever to explore what lay beyond just fixing machines. But even as excitement coursed through him, a doubt still lingered in the corners of his mind. What if he faltered in this new endeavor, only to find himself right back where he began? The thought loomed ominously, daring him to confront the risk. Jack! Ralph's voice cut through the tension. The moment hasn't come yet, but it will. Just be ready for it. With that, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that his life was on the verge of something remarkable, yet uncertain. How long could he sustain this newfound resolve? And would he be brave enough to leap into the depths of what teaching might bring? The future loomed ahead, a blurred tapestry of possibility intertwined with apprehension, and the question remained: could he navigate the winding path ahead without succumbing to the fears that had held him captive for so long? Days turned into weeks, and each moment pulsed with latent potential as Jack ventured deeper into uncharted territory. The lingering doubts began to fray at the edges of his resolve, yet the fire ignited in him during that chaotic moment with the CEO as father refused to dim. Harnessing the momentum, he enrolled in a local community college to pursue teaching, a bold step that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Jack found himself in that classroom, surrounded by eager faces marveling at the world of mechanics. The first time he explained the intricacies of an engine to an audience, something within him shifted profoundly. Each question from his students reflected not only their curiosity but also the echo of his past. Every hiccup he faced, every lesson learned, resonated through those interactions. He was not just deciphering machinery, he was reigniting his own long-buried aspirations in the eyes of those eager minds. The transition was nothing short of transformative. As days unfolded, Jack felt his confidence solidifying. No longer just a mechanic, he embodied a teacher, one capable of inspiring others to chase dreams. The first time a student successfully repaired a malfunctioning engine through Jack's guidance, he felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment spiral through him. Accomplishments pitched themselves like notes in a symphony, resonating within his very core. Yet, outside those classroom walls, the whispers lingered. Jack encountered resistance, still swirling from acquaintances who viewed him through the lenses of yesterday's labels. "You're wasting your time," they said dismissively. "You should stick to your day job." Each dismissal attempted to tether him back into the past he was fiercely trying to escape. However, each challenge revealed growth. With every criticism, Jack found strength to embrace his evolving identity, a beacon for those trapped within the machinery of self-doubt. The moments of external validation fortified the internal validation blossoming within him. He showcased not merely fixes, but the transformative power of mechanics, the invaluable life lessons intertwined therein. The more he engaged, the more he claimed his rightful space in a world that once dictated who he should be. One day, an unexpected visitor entered the class. It was Lisa, standing poised in the doorway with an air of admiration. As she listened to Jack teach, her pride shone like a bright star against the evening sky. "After the class," she said, "you've truly found your calling." Her words engulfed him, accompanied by acknowledgement of what he had achieved not just in skill but in character. Jack felt grounded in that moment, buoyed by the realization that he had transformed from a man paralyzed by doubt to one capable of instigating change. At that instant, he also recognized that while societal judgments had threatened to impede his journey, they only served to fuel his determination. Months later, Jack stood in front of a packed room on Avenue filled with ecstatic students showcasing their projects, each one echoing with lessons learned and dreams reclaimed. As he delivered his speech, accolades poured in from students and faculty. Jack had molded a thriving program, fostering curiosity and competence in the next generation of mechanics. Recognizing his impact, the school administration even nominated him for an award and honor that validated his leap into the unknown. For so long, Jack had doubted his worth, yet here he was, acknowledged for not just igniting passion in others but for mapping out a pathway for himself riddled with nothing less than courageous pursuit. Reflecting back, each past moment of vulnerability now materialized into milestones of achievement. Whether it was repairing a car or restoring hope, Jack had conquered the fears that once shackled him, embracing every challenge along the way. He had recognized that transformation wasn't restricted to metal and machines, it dwelled within human connection, empathy, and the undaunted decision to rise above. With heart swelling with pride, Jack realized he was no longer just a mechanic. He was a proud teacher, a man who had embraced his evolution and remained steadfast in the pursuit of growth. In this newfound identity, Jack had achieved something far greater, the ability to spark a change not only in himself but in others. Join Jack in the celebration of extraordinary personal growth. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. It's the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.